Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com.
And I'm Emily.
Emily and I are here to talk about the brand new 2023 K2 Mindbender 99Ti and 99Ti-W.
Yes.
They don't use the word Alliance anymore. The women's skis used to have Alliance in the title. Now it's just Ti-W.
Yep.
And this is one of those, not unique, but one of those situations where the men's skis are the same as the women's skis, or the women's skis are the same as the men's skis, however you want to think about that. So I thought it would be fun to just kind of talk about them together. We'll get Emily's perspective. Emily skied them all over the place. I skied them in one place, I think. But no, same ski. I mean, really, you're just getting like a bigger range of lengths. I can't remember exactly what that goes down to, but if you add the two skis together, there are two kind of crossover lengths between men and women, 166 and 172. I might be wrong about the 160 length, but definitely 172 because I know you skied that one, I believe, in both graphics. So pretty cool. A while back, Bob and I chatted about the Mindbender 99Ti. Really, that ski gets all the same changes that we're going to talk about here. So maybe we won't go as far in depth on the construction and shape changes, but we will touch on it at least briefly. So you know all this stuff because you wrote this review. But this ski, this is the new one here. That purple one's the new one. These are the 2022 versions. You got the same over there. So we'll kind of point out some differences between them as we go through. This new ski gets just an aspen veneer wood core. So that's something that K2 has used in other skis as well. And basically what they're doing is they're dropping maple. Maple is a little bit denser, a little bit heavier. So kind of a way of shedding just a little bit of weight, not too much weight. And then we get a different Titanal Y-beam, which is pretty cool. K2 has some good animations to show the difference, so I'll throw the animation in there. But there are some, I'd say like multiple differences between it. And as Bob and I were talking about it, it was more just like they went back to the drawing board and like really looked at it from more of an engineering perspective and kind of tweaked it in certain sections. So the first thing that's really noticeable is it's actually longer in the older version. So in this new ski, it starts a little bit lower, and we'll look at kind of the shape and some of the reasoning behind that in just a second. A little wider through this kind of mid section of the forebody of the ski, and then it gets narrower, and then it goes full width again like it used to, and then in the tail, it's kind of similar concept. So if you remember from past skis, it's just in the middle of the ski in the tail. Now it's same concept as the tip, a little narrower through this portion of the ski, and then kind of like juts out into a wider piece of metal in the extremity. So pretty interesting use of metal, I think. And it goes right along with K2's overall concept in a lot of their skis, which is controlling torsional stiffness in different portions of the ski. So more torsional stiffness up here in the forebody, less in the tail by not putting the metal to the edges of the ski. Really lets you kind of release your turns when you need to or want to. And then shape is pretty important too. 99 underfoot, that hasn't really changed, or has it? No. Has it in those? I want to say it was 98. Yes. It did
98,
change.
99.
So over there we get a little bit of a difference in width, but not a huge difference in width. Really the difference comes from the rocker camber profile. So a little bit longer rocker in these skis compared to the previous version, and there's more taper as well. So this tip is actually narrower, and the widest part of the tip has been kind of pulled down into the center portion of the ski. And then the same is true with the tail as well. So we get a little bit longer tail rocker back there, a little bit more early taper too. And we'll take a look at the old ski real quick here so we can kind of at least visualize the difference. There is still rocker in this ski, just not quite as much splay and not quite as long as the new ski. Pretty subtle difference, but I do think the difference is there. And then in the tail, I'd say it's even probably more noticeable in the tail
And
so
also where the rocker
splay.
starts in both the tip and tail.
100%.
Compared to the Y-beam technology placement.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of an indicator of where the rocker starts, where the metal is ending. So that's it. You know, if you want to learn more about the differences in construction and shape, you can watch the 89 Ti review. You can read our ski test. You can read Emily's article. All sorts of places to get that information. So from here, I'm more just interested in your experience on them. So why don't you tell us the multiple places you skied them, the length that you were skiing, and just your overall impression. And then towards the end of the video, I'll talk about what I thought.
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate enough to not only test the women's and the men's, even though they're basically the same.
Totally the same.
Just
they are different color.
Different top sheet. I also tested them in 2 different areas. So the first day that I tested the women's, I was at Stowe for the ski test. And I believe that day the conditions were pretty firm in the morning, and then it kind of warmed up and it was more like spring-like mash in the afternoon.
Tuesday, Wednesday ski test days?
Yep.
Yes.
Wednesday
that's an accurate
Wednesday.
description.
Yep.
Firm in the morning, soft in the afternoon.
Yep. And then the second time I got to ski them, I loved them so much that I insisted on bringing them to my trip to Big Sky, Montana. So really got a wide range of, conditions and terrain, and just my experience was very well-rounded.
Somewhat demanding, in fact.
Yes, I was.
Jeff, please go get that ski for me.
I was, I just, like I said, insisted.
Yep, it's fine.
I really fell in love with them and really wanted to try them in, wider, more open terrain because of how they performed at Stowe in that type of terrain. When I first saw them and kind of, got a better sense of the shape and the profile and just the feel of them, I was a little unsure of how they would perform on piste and on firmer conditions. They seemed like they might be a little demanding, a little heavy, and not as maneuverable. But from the firm conditions to the softer stuff in the afternoon, they just are super versatile. And as you pointed out, the Y-beam technology, just the placement of the metal laminate in the ski is just so unique and just really speaks to the performance. What I noticed really was the placement in the forebody in the tips was just, I really loved how the metal kind of ends and then the rocker begins, because it made for a really maneuverable, just a pretty playful tip. So upon initiating a turn, they were just really eager, and that was really what stood out for me, was just the initiating a turn and then releasing from a turn. And that is something that I continue to focus on with these skis, is because of the Y-beam technology and the shape and the profile. Initiating a turn was just like, it locked you in immediately, and it was just so effortless. And then you'd think that with a ski with this much metal in it, it would kind of just keep you in that turn, and it would be
get locked in.
Yeah, but it was super easy to just snap out of it. It was really energetic, and I think that's exactly what they were going for with this design, was just a front side directional all mountain ski, but with a little bit more of a free ride flair and just more like playfulness.
Yeah, I think so. And I think they nailed it. And that's something that I felt in this ski too. And this ski wasn't terribly hooky or demanding. If you were to put this in the whole category of 100 underfoot all mountain free ride-y skis, it was kind of right in the middle of how loose it was versus how demanding it was. And I think they just kind of enhanced its maneuverability and playfulness without sacrificing its strength or precision.
Right.
Because that's it definitely is filling that role in K2's line as the strongest directional skis.
Yep.
So you don't want to make it too washy.
Right. And I think they just found this perfect balance between agility and stability.
Yeah.
Which for all mountain capabilities, that's just pretty ideal. So I had the chance to be on the kind of firmer packed powder at Stowe, and then I just really loved how confidently and stable I felt on the ski, and just really had a really fun time skiing them. So then I, like you said, was a little bit demanding about bringing them on my trip to Big Sky, and the first couple days that I was in Big Sky, it was more similar to conditions back here. It hadn't snowed in a little bit.
Yep.
Was a little bit firmer, but just much more open terrain. So I was just kind of taking them all over into the wider bowls and then into the trees. I would say that they're not the most nimble if you're looking for something, if you're skiing mostly glades and like bumps.
Sure. Yeah.
They are a little bit more demanding on that type of terrain. But that said, they're definitely still capable. And if you're looking to just kind of have a ski for everything, for all terrain,
Right.
These definitely, live up to the challenge. But, when I had the chance to open up my turns and just like really kind of like cruise across the fall line and just be making wider, longer turns, they really shined then.
Yeah, they definitely love going fast.
Yes, as do I.
Yeah, that was actually yesterday or the day before. I was kind of looking through all the footage we had of this ski, and Bob was filming you during the ski test. And, Bob's a fantastic skier.
Yes.
But he was clearly having trouble keeping up, which is funny when you're filming, because when you're filming, like, you can just go straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was like really kind of a good example or evident to what the skis can do. Is it was that bumpy kind of late afternoon chop.
Yeah.
And sometimes going really fast through that stuff can be nerve-wracking.
Totally.
But the ski stays very composed.
Yes.
Which I think is great.
Really smooth and damp. And like especially another thing that I really noticed was just the edge grip was really impressive.
Yeah.
And that kind of played into how they performed, in and out of turns as well. I mean, like the second I kind of initiated a turn and started to press into the shovel of the ski, it was just like I could really lean in and just run a strong turn and then like pop back into the next one.
Yeah.
Which with a ski with this much metal and just like its overall design, you'd think you'd kind of like I said earlier, like kind of be locked into that turn and have a hard time getting out of it. But they're just so maneuverable and...
Yeah, and you had them in some deep snow too, right?
Yes, yeah. So then later on in my trip, we got, I don't know, like a foot of snow. And then, just being able to ski in those types of conditions were just... That's another moment when I realized, like, wow, these really can do it all. It's like they were just bouncing in and out of the deeper snow just because of the more nimble, maneuverable tips. But just underfoot, I felt really strong. So like any airs I took or anything like that, they were just really intuitive, like were easy to kind of just pop up and move with me. And then upon any landings, it was just super stable, super smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people over the past few years since these skis came out, Mindbenders in general, and that often comes up with the 108 Ti. Like 108, you're really getting into like big mountain kind of free ride-y width. Yeah. So for skiers that like to ski like that, like pretty aggressively, pretty fast, and drop cliffs like on the way back, on the way down, it's a really good choice for that.
Totally.
And I think you get a lot of that, a lot of those characteristics in this ski, and I think probably because they increased the rocker profile just a little bit and tapered the tip a little bit more, it feels more like a free ride ski than this did.
Yes.
And it's like a small difference because there's, obviously more similarities between these skis than differences, but
yeah, really slight
for whatever reason, it just feels a little bit more capable off trail to me.
Totally. And like you said earlier with the taper and the rocker and the tips, it kind of moves the wider point closer to the midpoint and the underneath the binding. So you just have that additional like foundation and just more stability.
Yeah, a little easier to flick around too when you kind of bring those.
Yep.
Bring that wider point in. I'm gonna walk off camera real quick here.
Okay.
Because I forgot to get our trusty scale.
Oh yes.
I'm back. Obviously those are different lengths, but I'm curious about these. Got zero out here. So last year's ski, over 2,200 grams, 2,220, and these are 184s. This year's ski, it feels lighter to me when you ski it. Yeah, so almost 200 grams lighter. Mm-hmm. So 2,060 grams in this new ski. So when you take that much mass out of a ski and increase the rocker camber or increase the rocker profile, it's it's noticeably quicker in just
Yeah.
how you can kind of snap it around.
I think that was their intention, or one of their intentions with the changes with this year's model, is just
Yeah,
taking a little bit of weight away, but still maximizing the metal and how that affects the performance.
100%.
But then what you get is the torsional rigidity and just the stability from the Y-beam technology, and then
it's still like a pretty stiff, strong ski.
right. But then you still have that kind of nimble, playful, free ride feel. Has that personality, which kind of just for me that kind of strikes a perfect balance.
100%. And for me too. Like, I love skiing fast and aggressively,
Yeah.
but I don't always like being something like that. I don't know why I flipped the ski over right now, but just like the way that I'm thinking about it is, this is huge to me.
Exactly.
Just like having this change in tail rocker, especially in this width. We talked about it in the 89 too, but I think as you get wider, you're skiing softer snow more often, and I'm willing to have less camber back here, more rocker. Like, there are benefits to having a flatter tail because it's going to be a stronger finish to your turn. But yeah, it's just.
It just makes it has more energy. I feel like it's just like has this like energetic responsiveness to it.
Yeah.
So just their whole approach to this year's model is, I mean, I really love these skis. And like I said, I had a few different chances to ski them in a variety of conditions, and I feel like no matter what I threw at them, they performed really strongly. Yet I was still, I like to ski aggressively and fast and just kind of go down the fall line, and out in Montana we were hitting some cliffs, and it was just, I felt really, really confident, and I could rely on them. And but then the second I would land and wanted to kind of like bounce around and have some like a playful feel from them, they could do that as well. So it's just, they continued to impress me.
I don't really have much to add. Pretty much everything Emily said kind of echoes my thoughts on it. Not a touring ski. I figure like I'll point out some things that it's not. It's not a twin tip. If you're kind of looking for that kind of stuff, either touring or more of a freestyle ski, like that's not what this is. But I think you mentioned this at one point. If you're looking for one ski to do a little bit of everything on, this is great. Which is like, we say that about a lot of skis, and it kind of sometimes feels like it's dumbing it down or oversimplifying things. But this is a really good ski to use that description because it is very well rounded. It's strong, but it's also got some looseness to it.
It really skis like it should be narrower, but then
like
it has
in its quickness.
But then it has the width underfoot for when you do encounter softer snow and you want more of a just a more powder focused ski. I mean, I wouldn't call this a powder ski, but it just kind of has that range of capabilities and versatility.
100%. Yeah, and I think that's one of the noticeable improvements from last year to this year. Comparison season is coming right up, where we do those big, long comparison videos and articles. And I do think this is going to fall in a slightly different spot in those big comparisons than this. Like this ski, I really used to think of more as like a slightly more forgiving and slightly more maneuverable mantra. There was a lot of similarities in its construction and shape and all that kind of stuff. This is starting to feel more like it like kind of sits closer to like an Armada Declivity 102 or the Reliance 102. I think you've skied the Reliance 102. It's taking that strength and stability and blending it with more maneuverability and more playfulness, which is great.
Yeah, kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think they did a fantastic job. Glad you agree. Glad you were able to take one out west. That was cool.
Me too.
It's always fun when we're able to test a ski out west.
Absolutely.
Bob and I really benefited from that this past season in Alta and Sun Valley and stuff like that. So you guys often point out like, oh, I don't ski in the East. Like, what do you know about where I ski? And
turns out we do.
It's not that much different, but it's always nice when you can take things out west.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's it. I don't think we missed anything. The only thing that I thought of as we were going through is we didn't touch on the sidewalls.
I was just going to say, you
ski
can see it in the...
you get that red kind of double sidewall in the previous version, and it tapers to cap construction in the fore and aft sections of the ski. The new ones are just straight vertical sidewall. So
Which
a little
I think
bit more
plays into
consistency.
I think it plays
Yeah.
into how they feel, on edge.
Right. Like you didn't need to like double maximize the grip underfoot because
Right.
it was already plenty of grip. And
Yep.
I think they realized that and kind of gave it a little bit more simplicity underfoot.
Yep.
So that's it.
Really impressive though. I mean, I've skied K2 for a long time, and this ski and just their direction with
Totally.
their skis is just, it's really impressive to watch the progression.
Yeah, they've done some really impressive things. Disruptions with the I-beam and all
Yep.
that stuff. Like a lot of things that I wouldn't historically have expected
Yep.
from K2. So it's cool to see like the modern K2 brand.
Sure, without losing the free ride flair, which we all
No,
love
they
from
still make the
K2.
Reckoner 102.
Yep,
Which is like
exactly.
the softest, not the softest, but a super, super soft ski.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that when you were talking about like, if you just like to wiggle through ski, is like maybe this isn't for you.
Totally.
Which is fine because K2 makes like a million skis that are super wiggly through trees.
Yep.
So that's the Mindbender 99Ti and TIW over there. Let us know if you have any questions. If you have a question specifically for Emily, just kind of put a note in your comment that you're curious about her perspective rather than mine or Bob's, and we'll get back to you right away. And yeah, look out for comparison videos, comparison series. Look out for those comparison things because they're coming soon. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
We're gonna make a lot of turns, Bob.
Okay, watch out.
Okay, watch out. Watch out, we got a guy going here.
That was a nice recovery.